Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for BroadwayWorld. Bob Dylan and Conor McPherson's musical Girl from the North Country is getting ready to hit the road. And I caught up with two of the show's stars, Jennifer Blood and John Schiappa. I am thrilled to be sitting with the two of you here before you get on the road for Girl from the North Country. How excited are the two of you to get ready to take this show on the road?
I'm really excited. It's so nice to come back and to get to play these great roles in this beautiful show. And I'm excited to travel. I'm excited to go to all these cities.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the things that makes me so happy about this is that the show started at the public in 2018, and we moved to Broadway in 2020 and opened, and then the pandemic shut us down, and then we reopened in 21, and then we reopened again in 22. And I feel like the show just never got to get to its audience. And by going on the road in 2023, I feel like we're going to take it across the country and get it to people who I feel should see the show. I just really think it's going to play well. And I'm curious to see how it's accepted in the Rust Belt and in the Plain States. And I'm excited. Oh, and let's talk about the food too. Food in all those places.
I thought you meant the stage food.
Not the stage food.
We don't get to eat the stage food this time.
What is the stage food? Is it plastic? Is it real?
No, it's
Oh
real.
no, it's real. There's a Thanksgiving scene, and everyone is upstage eating, turkey and
Mashed potatoes,
biscuits and
stuffing.
Yes, cranberry, mayonnaise. You can make a sandwich.
Coffee. We have coffee. Everybody, cream and sugar, all of it.
Yeah.
I love this. Okay, you started talking about touring. You've toured before.
Mm-hmm.
You've never really toured before.
No, I have not.
Okay, so
We're virgin.
what insight are you giving him about the world of touring? Or is anybody else in your company that's like toured? Like, I've done 9 shows.
Thank God. There are
Yeah.
people who are sending things to our group text thread, bring this, don't bring this, travel light, Jen, you're insane for thinking you can only travel with a carry-on bag. Things like that, Even you were sending some things from tour friends about some great products to bring to cook in the hotel rooms.
Yeah, it's wild because who knew these products existed? It's like a collapsible pot that you can cook in. Collapsible, who knew? And kettles and things that are compact for traveling. I'm so out of it. I'm learning all of the tricks to touring.
Because I love to ask everybody when they go on the road, like, what are you putting in your trunk? What are you taking? Like, what are those feel-good things from home that you're like, that's got to go into my regular suitcase, not into the trunk? Are there certain things you want to take that you have to take? Feel-good things.
Last time I think I brought a lot more feel-good things. This time I know I need to bring like my sleep mask, my little noise machine, my little hotel humidifier, things for sleeping in hotels that can be noisy or, just are different. But for the most part, I think the thing I learned last time traveling was I got home and I saw all my stuff and I was like, I've been away from all this stuff for a year and I'm fine. I could really downsize. So I'm downsizing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm traveling
before you
light.
even leave.
Yeah.
John, for you, things you must take with you, or fun things you want to bring.
I should have thought of those things. I'm still working that out. Yeah, shoes. No, I don't know.
Totally.
A winter coat. Everybody tells me that by the time you get off the road, you're going to want to burn everything you traveled with. You will not want to look at it again. So, I just had the bright idea. I'm like, my iPad, I can fill it with all my photos of my wife and kids and have it playing in the room. I'm like, and other people say, bring a candle for your room or a scarf to put over your lamp. I'm like, what?
Until you get there, you're going to be like, I should have brought the scarf.
You're right. I
should have brought all this stuff.
Yeah, I have not figured it out.
Last time I brought I have this sort of creepy old doll from the Goodwill that I brought to every job that I had ever been on for the last 15 years, and I brought it with me touring, and I take pictures of her all over the place. And
is she going?
I mailed her back. I put her in the box, and I remember taking pictures and sending it to my castmates saying, do you think it's a bad idea for me to ship Baby J home? And they're like, no, it's fine. I've got pictures of her waving. And someone stole my box from outside of the front of my house. So Baby J went missing. We almost put up flyers all over the neighborhood. My husband was so sad. But so now I'll just have to travel with my creepy doll necklace.
I love that.
Yeah.
So so at least you have photos of this.
I have photos of her, and I also have the necklace, which is actually just a bunch of doll heads.
Yeah.
But it's to remind you not to take anything too seriously.
I love that though.
Wait, did you say a necklace of doll heads?
It's a necklace of doll heads.
Yeah.
I think I'll mostly be in a dressing room by myself, but there are people who have sort of objected to this necklace. They're like, I feel a
think it's
little weird
great.
about this.
Everyone's going to
Wow.
want to come to your dressing room
Yeah.
now and
See
the
my
necklace with
rubbed
the doll
doll
heads.
heads. Yes.
I love that. Let's go back to this show. We all fell in love with this show at the Public Theater. I mean, I fell in love with it all over again on Broadway. Were you connected from the very beginning, you two? When did you join the Girl from Middle Country
I joined
tour?
for the Broadway company as a swing
Yeah.
in 2020, but
I was down at the Public in 2018 as I was in the show and covering many parts, and yeah, it was fantastic. I was so excited when it got the nod to move uptown because, like I said, I think it's a great show that needs to be seen.
Yeah. So when you first got involved in that, like, this is a really special musical. I mean, it's Bob Dylan music. It's, Conor McPherson's incredible story. And they blend so beautifully together.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing, the first time I saw this musical, I was like, wow, Bob could have written these songs for this musical, So when you first got involved in this, like, what made this so special for you early on?
Well, it's
down at
interesting.
Public?
I agree. It's such a unique piece.
Yeah.
It is a special, beautiful, sort of poetic piece that when you look at it on paper, you read Conor's play and you go, this is amazing. And right then I'm thinking, I just want to be in the room while we're working on this because I'm fascinated. And then when you hear the music of Dylan and the way that Simon Hale has arranged it and orchestrated it in the surprising ways in which both he and Conor use the music in the show, you instantly go, this is special. This is not like anything else you've ever seen. You can't categorize it as this or that. It is its own beautiful, unique piece. And it's funny, and it's poetic, and it's charming, and it's full of life, and the struggle of life, and the happiness of those things. It's its own thing, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. So when you got involved and you read it for the first time or whatever, like, what were your initial thoughts about how special it was?
Well, I was just wondering, I remember when I read it before I went in for the audition, I was like, how does the music fit into this? I don't completely understand. Like, what should I do? Am I singing as the character? How does it work? And then, I went in and I auditioned and I just kind of did my thing. And then at the first rehearsal, we did a read-through, and, so many people had already done it, a read-through, sing-through, and just sitting around in a circle, hearing it, and then hearing the music come in, and there are people playing instruments, and it was just amazing and sort of magical. The way it all came together, it was just like, oh. And I don't know that anyone could have articulated to me, like, this is how the music works. But seeing it, it's just this magical thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you both started as swings or understudies, which is the saving grace of our business. It always has been. But I mean, I think the pandemic really matched a name with what you all do. I mean, you saved so many shows. I mean, it wasn't for swings and understudies, all these shows would have shut down. And it's happening now. Swings and understudies are saving shows all over again. Do you remember the first times you went on in these roles?
Yeah.
Who went on first?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, talk about who you play in the show.
You first, because you were actually on first.
Yeah.
I play Elizabeth Lane. I was on first. I went on as one of the ensemble women, and that was fine, but also nerve-wracking because you spend most of your time in understudy rehearsal working on the roles.
Yeah.
So there were things that I had probably never really walked through, and you're just walking like, I hope I'm not going to run into anybody. But then I went on for Elizabeth, I think in December of 2020, and it was about an hour before the show. I'd just eaten a whole bag of chips, and like, I was not planning on this, and the stage manager came up to me, he's like, well, there might be a COVID situation, we won't know, because they always would retest everybody, to make sure it wasn't a false positive, and if you want to go down and run anything, go run. And it was so scary. being an understudy is so scary, I think. But I think one thing that was so lucky about that time as an understudy is that you got to do it so many times in a row that you really get to get the notes and put them into action and start finding your own things and find your way. And it was such a beautiful role to get to explore. Am I allowed to like give stuff away, or I don't know. Can I talk about like who she is, or
Yeah, of course you can, yeah.
she has early onset dementia, or it's never specifically said in the piece, but she's sort of in different worlds, you know, and that is so much fun, I think, as an actor, because you have just so much freedom, you know. This can be really creative and imaginative, and it's really fun.
What do you remember about that first performance on stage as her?
What do I remember? I mean, I do remember just standing in the wings being like, oh boy, this is...
Oh, yeah.
That like, before that first entrance, just scary stuff. The first act, I remember the first act feeling like, all right. And then the second act, it was, you know what I do remember? I remember the second act, things started to get a little less, like I was late for maybe one line. And I remember telling Bob Joy, who played Dr. Walker, I remember being like, oh, sorry, I missed that line. He was like, I had the best improv. It was so great. I'm like, thank you. You're so kind. But yeah, I remember there was some fun in it even after you get past that moment in the wings of being like, oh God, what's gonna happen?
That's great. And for you?
Well, I play Nick Lane, who is married to Elizabeth, and he's trying to keep the boarding house that they started together running and on its feet. And he's sort of this guy who's just, he's got all the plates in the air and he's spinning them and he's trying to keep them going and sort of keep everybody happy and the place from falling apart. And it's Duluth, 1934, the Depression. So it's an interesting role to tackle because he's one of the few characters who doesn't sing. And he doesn't sing for many reasons, but the main reason is that he's a guy who is a little bit bottled up. And to have him sing and have that a private moment would kind of unleash that bottled up stuff. So it makes for a very interesting several scenes in the show. First time I went on was, fortunately it was planned. So I knew I was going on. I actually went on for Mr. Burke, which this character plays the drums in the show. Now, my 7-year-old self was really excited about playing the drums. My adult self was pooping his pants. I was like, yeah, I got to play the drums with the professional band that's over there. And the drum set's all the way in this corner. The band's up there. So the sound is a little wild. And I just remember thinking before I went out, I was like, okay, you're really doing this. This is about to happen. Oh, it's happening, and it's all running through your head, and you're sitting down in the chair, and you're looking around like, oh, I'm going to start playing. There's 1,000 people out there, and then, you know, I don't really remember anything except that moment like, oh my goodness, I can't stop this. This is happening. And it was a blast. It ended up being my favorite thing to do.
The drumming.
Oh my gosh, yes, I loved it.
Because everybody I've spoken to about that first time on stage is I remember making my entrance,
Yeah.
or being terrified beforehand, making my entrance, and then taking my bow.
Oh my God.
It's like,
I have no memory, actually, and I remember
wow.
the associate director coming up and saying, oh, that one moment was so great. And I'm like, what? I have no idea what I did.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
remember any of it. It's just a blur.
Yeah.
so when you found out you were going on this incredible tour now, this national tour that's going everywhere, I mean, when you found out, like, what went through your mind that first time? Like, I'm going.
Oh, I mean, it was a big decision for me because I have a family now. I have 2 kids, but it was. I mean, it felt like such a gift that they were offering me this role. I wasn't really expecting that, and I've been just really excited for the last couple of months coming up to this. To get to work on it, to get to do this great part so many, like every day, and I've reached the point where I'm excited about my family getting to be a part of this. They're not touring with us, but they'll be out to visit a lot, and I'm like, well, my kids will get to see a lot of places, and we'll get to explore those together. Maybe one of them will get to see me in a show for the first time, which is exciting.
Because how old are your kids?
2.5 and 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
To have them on the road to visit you in these key cities.
Yes, we've got plans of all the places we're going to see. There's a place where you can make your own crayon in Minneapolis. I'm really excited about that. I'm really selling it up. I'm like, you can make your own crayon and name it. But yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And when you first found out you were going on the road in this?
Well, similar feelings. I was sort of surprised and impressed. Not impressed, I'm sorry, surprised and honored that I was going to get to do this part and sort of shepherd it along the way. And actually, one of the first things I said was to my agent, who's playing Elizabeth? And I found out it was you, and I was so happy. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And then I was just crazy because I couldn't tell anyone for a long time. The offer came, it's like, I can't tell anyone. And then I didn't know about who else was in the show yet. And so, there were a couple of months of like, oh my gosh. And then you go, am I doing this? I'm doing this. Yeah. I'm packing up and going on the road and leaving the home behind. And then they would get excited about the adventure, and then I'd think, am I crazy? And I'm extremely excited about the adventure.
So I love that you get these jobs and like you can't tell anybody for 6 months, and it's like right. You're actors, and it's like it's like
it's hard.
And then you talk to everybody on like Facebook and everybody else who's done the show, or just social media, and you're like, oh, what are you up to? Nothing. What are you up to, right?
Yeah. Yes, I know. It's figuring out. It's like, who else is coming?
Have you heard anything about the tour? That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the first stop is where Bob Dylan was born, right?
Yes. Such a great thing.
The birthplace of Bob Dylan, Minnesota. And we've just found out recently that the theater we're playing, the Orpheum, he was the owner of for quite some time. And his children sort of grew up there as theater rats and answering phones and hanging out backstage. So it's got a history to it connected to the show, which is very exciting. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be wild,
so
isn't
cool.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to the beginning. When you were growing up, was there a defining moment for each of you where you said, I want to be a performer and try to make a living at this?
No. It just kind of happened. I had grown up doing theater, like in the community and in high school, because that's what my parents did, like community theater.
Yeah.
And my grandparents before them. It's like this long history of like 100 years in the community theater. And then it came time to go to college. I was like, well, I guess I'll study theater. And my family was very supportive because they all loved it so much. And that's just kind of what I did. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, it's interesting, almost the same. I grew up not really doing anything in the theater. I played sports, but my dad did community theater with the church, if you can believe that. I just remember seeing it as a kid going, oh, that's kind of cool. And as I got into high school, I started to dabble a little bit more in it and started to enjoy it more than the other stuff. And I was like, well, might as well go to school for that and let's see what's what. I remember my dad saying to me, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I can always go back to school. And he walked out of the room, and then he walked back in, and he gave me a big hug, and he's like, you just go after it. I was like, oh, I didn't even know what he,
Yeah.
But, so it was something I think he had always wanted to do, and I had no idea. And I sort of slid into it, and never looked back. Never looked back.
That is great.
That's sweet.
Broadway debuts are really special. What was your Broadway debut?
I took over as the cover for Sutton Foster in Violet halfway through that run, and I never went on for her, but I was in the clapping chorus in that one scene, and so I got to go out there and sing and step, touch, and clap a little bit every night, and even just doing that, I was very happy to be in that Broadway theater on stage.
It's a special thing, Broadway debuts. You wait and hope that it happens for you, that you can, maybe one day walk through that stage door and sign your name in and just, do it here.
Yeah, it is something magical just being in that Broadway house. I remember when I did Matilda here in town, I felt like every night I was just so grateful that I was living my dream. I'm like, here I am, this thing that I dreamed of for so long, and I'm doing it. Yeah.
John, for you.
Oh, this may date me a little bit, but my Broadway debut was Greaseball and Starlight Express, which I replaced Bob Torty in that show.
Yeah.
A year after he had opened it, I did basically the second year, and it was amazing. I mean, that set was, I always say if it had opened 5 years later, it'd probably still be running. It was just an amazing kind of time when families and people were just starting to come to the theater. But that show, for all of the hard knocks it gets, was really an amazing experience and some incredibly talented people. And that was at the Gershwin. And flash forward many, many years later, I replaced it was Dr. Dillerman in Wicked. And I get shown in the theater and up to my dressing room, and it's my old dressing room. And there are things there that I had done and built and put up there, and they're still there. And then I thought, oh, if that's still there, I wonder if. And I walked upstairs, and on the very top floor, there are, this is crazy, there are like little roads painted across the top of the stage, and they built ramps up to the doorways and over the doorways, because up there for fire reasons the doors are closed and raised. So you would have to make a quick change to the other side of the stage if you were on the third level of the set. You'd do that, and you'd ride across the top of the theater, the other side. You'd run down the stairs in your gates, and you'd come out.
Whoa!
And those are still there. The cherry picker that took me up to the third level to do the entrance as greaseball, we had signed the wall. All of that is still up there. And those are the kinds of things about the theater that I love. You realize so many people have trod those boards before you, and there's something sort of sacred about that I am always deeply touched by. I can't quite explain it. It's just magical.
You were skating 3 levels up?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh my God!
Yeah, explain to people Starlight Express. I saw it in London first, then I saw it here, but you're on roller skates for the whole show.
Yeah, with this incredible costume.
Could you play trains?
Yeah, you play trains, and I had Jane Krakowski hanging off my back, and we're skating around and up and down, and you're wearing this costume that's like, 30 pounds. It's like you've gone to the stadium to play a game of ice hockey, and you do it every night. And it was crazy. It was, and you're singing and you're skating, and there were people that were dancing on skates, and it's really remarkable.
Do you still skate?
I do.
Love it, I do.
But it's funny because I didn't skate when I started. They had to teach me. Wow. So yeah, my trick was rolling backwards slowly. When they're like, "Okay, show us your tricks," I was like, backwards. I'm coasting. That's it. That's all I got.
You're hired.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to this show. What's made this show, because you've all done so many incredible shows, what's made this so special for each of you?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just the fact that we went through this pandemic during this time is a huge part of it. The way that the cast kept connected, and how close we all had to be, I think, to put this thing together and keep it going. And I mean, that, and it's the combination of the music and this play that just come together in this magically beautiful way that kind of can't be described, that I think is just so special to get to be a part of and to get to experience every night.
Yeah, 100%. The fact that through all of these stops and starts and reopenings, the cast became tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. It's such a family-oriented group to begin with. It was just magical. For me personally, getting to work on it at the Public in 2018 and reading it and wanting to do the show so badly, skip forward all these years to get to actually play this role that I've been watching and just loving in this piece that I adore, is really, it's magical. It's a once in a lifetime kind of experience for me. I've never been with the show for almost 5 years.
Yeah. I think the piece itself, I can't speak for all the other companies like London and Canada, but I wonder if every company, if there's something about this piece that really does feel like it creates a family, and this sense of goodwill, which is interesting because of the way the piece comes together, and that it's set in this boarding house in the Depression, and everyone is kind of finding themselves there at sort of a tough spot, but they have each other, I wonder if it's something about the piece that creates this.
I think there's universal
feeling
truths for all of that,
yeah.
right? Of gathering and perseverance and hope and looking for the next day. It's going to be better than the last one. And there's something, I think you're right. I would be curious to ask the other companies if they feel all this too. I would say yes, because I think that's what the show projects. And
something about making the music together. I mean, just there are people who play instruments, and everyone sings on a lot of the songs. It's something about, it feels almost like an old party where everyone got together and sang, Yeah, it lifts you up.
Well, let's talk about that incredible music by Bob Dylan. Did you know a lot of his music before you got involved in the show?
I didn't, But I did, I knew so many covers, and then I was like, oh, that's a Bob Dylan song. Oh, that's a Bob Dylan song.
That's the same thing. I was like, oh my goodness, that's Bob Dylan. And then you start looking at the lyrics and you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why he got the Pulitzer. Woo, so good. I like you. I was peripherally aware of his music, unknowingly that these covers were his. Yeah.
And then hearing the arrangements that Simon has done is amazing, because you go back and you listen to Bob's version and you're like, wow, it's so different and it works so beautifully.
And that's the theatricality part of it, where they were able to take this music and really, within Conor's story, make it forward the emotion, the moment, the story. You never know which it's going to do, but it always does one of those things in a most beautiful way.
So I thought the same thing. I didn't really know Bob's music, because I was brought up on cast albums and soundtracks, and I was like, oh. And then I was like, his music's so theatrical, the way the arrangements are done. But like I said, it just fits so beautifully into Conor's story. Now let's get into Conor.
Richard, you have like 2 minutes and then
All right.
rehearsal.
All right. Oh, that's terrible. All right, it's all good. All right. No, let me see. What I want to do. Let's just pick a favorite. Do you have a favorite number in the show? Is there a favorite moment of this show that you love to watch or listen to of one of Bob's songs?
I love Slow Train, License to Kill.
Yeah.
There's something about, it's just so fun, and being out there with the tambourines, and I can't even describe it. And I also love just throwing my hair around.
For me, I probably have 2 songs. One is I Want You, because of the unusual way, when you listen to the original song and you look how they use it in the show, it's spectacularly beautiful. Did I say spectacularly? Yeah,
I love that new
It's
word.
a new word. I'm just mad at that. And then Duquesne Whistle, because of the moment it comes from. It's also one of my favorites.
And just talk briefly about Conor's poetic play, this incredible play he's written, what it means to each of you as actors.
It's just a beautiful piece, and there's so much to dig into, and there's a lot of mystery to it. There's a lot of questions that you'll probably come out with that are really left up to you to interpret, and that's interesting. I think as an audience member, I think you could see this play many times and come out with different things and notice different things and find different questions. As an actor, it's fascinating because there are so many different ways you can go. I think there are so many. It like sort of alludes to so many American stories and plays and not American stories. I mean, like the Bible and Our Town and Of Mice and Men are all stories that come up in your mind, I think, when you see this. He's incredible.
It's a story full of hope and perseverance and struggle and joy, and filled with music and laughter and all of those things. I think you hit on something I really love about the show. Is there's a lot of mystery to it, and people who've seen the show take away whatever they see in it, which I think is best theater. When somebody thinks a scene meant one thing and somebody else thinks it meant, oh no, it meant something else, and you realize, oh, they're bringing their life and their experiences into the theater, and as they watch this piece, they're seeing what they need to see, and I think that's magical when that happens in the theater.
Yeah.
There is no one definite version.
Well, I know you have to actually go to rehearsal right now, but I want to thank you for dropping by to talk to me at Broadway World, and just have the best time bringing this incredible musical around the country to so many new audience members who may be experiencing theater for the very first time. Because, oh my God, I love Bob Dylan songs, and you're going to introduce them to this new art form.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great time on the road.